All right. Well, one thing. See, the problem with Ayn Rand, for example, is with metaphysics. Officially she does have she criticized metaphysics, like you say. I can accept that. But officially she has a metaphysics. Officially she's an idealist the way she approaches things. She characterizes it some opposite way. And I'm into using your own definitions, but not like take romanticism, which has a definition, and objectivity, which has a definition. Say you're all about objectivity, but as soon as objectivity interferes with the romantic criteria, to hell with that. The Indians were terrible. They're the villains. What are you talking about? Um, Ayn Rand offers us a list of her likes and dislikes. She doesn't like moochers, not like those of us that love them. And things like this, likes and dislikes. Okay, that is not philosophy. Again, strictly speaking, everything is philosophy, fine. But a list of likes, and it's like, you know, everybody is a philosopher by default. They have a philosophy. If they talk and are kind of philosophical and think about their ideas, by default they're a philosopher. It's almost like you start off that way, but there's certain things you can do that can discredit it. For example, if you claim or think of yourself or people that admire you think of you as a philosopher, and what you have is a list of likes and dislikes, and they think you're a philosopher because they share those, okay, there is a skill to enunciating likes and dislikes. Absolutely. It's not a particularly philosophical skill. Okay, it's the most crude and basic. It's like the kind of human activity you feed into philosophy, which itself is not philosophical. It's experiential. Uh, I am the kind of person that I admit that likes and dislikes play a huge role in philosophy, but a list of them is not of philosophy. It's not a serious or um, quality philosophy in that sense. Now, every novelist, there's a philosophy. You could create the philosophy of Stephen King. You could do that, but novels have philosophy in them. You can deduce it out. Okay, so I'm not, again, not saying that there's no way to use the term philosophy in a study of some novelist, Ayn Rand, science fiction novelist or whatever. But we're talking about what we would educate, what we call philosophy when we say, well, one kind of study is different from another kind of study. Yeah, everything is everything and all of those kinds of trivial definitions. But, when we're trying to say, well, which part of all the study of man do we put in the philosophy department, which in the physics department, which in the rhetoric department, which in the literature, which in critical analysis or whatever, however you want to compartmentalize it. Those are arbitrary distinctions that you attach overt, well stated criteria, so that although they're arbitrary, you can judge and share them and make them less arbitrary through, again, having some criteria of judgment for them. And there's not enough consistency in Ayn Rand's work. It is a list of what her pet peeves were, of her criticism of characterizations of philosophy, which I love people that criticize Western philosophy. But I mean, her view of Kant is like, and of other Randians is just so, I mean, I'm sorry, I and many people that disagree with me see Kant from the totally opposite side. You know, um, I mean, to me, Rand seems more Kantian than but I've had people say, "Oh, well, you're obviously a follower of Kant." What the hell are you talking about? Follower of Kant? The people I follow just almost laugh at good old Kant. But he's a great guy, though. I think there's a lot in there to learn from him. But like as far as following and saying this is the way things work, I mean, who does that in Western philosophy? She. Well, I should look up the years of Popper because I mean it's just like there were contemporary people that were promoting this secular Western open society thing that she might have argued against. I don't know what's going on with that. I should look into the history of it. But seriously, I criticize her views as really a list of likes and dislikes without enough consistency. to say that it's principles and demonstrations of principles into conclusions. And that is what it would have to be. Yes, isn't there a lot of controversy on methodology in philosophy? Yeah, but not the idea that it has to be trackable. In some sense, you have, and like for example, let's say some radical example. I'm an anarchist. I don't believe it should be trackable. Right, but you're stating overtly it shouldn't be trackable. It's like her view is things should be objective. It should always be objective. And property rights are fundamental. You can never take them right. The right of an individual, the most important thing, the ultimate minority. But, the Native Americans, they didn't really have property because, you know what, they didn't really have any deeds and none of them said the word property. So, I mean, it just doesn't go like that. And it's all over this lack of connectivity. You have a list of things. There obviously is some connection. And as a philosopher, it was her job to describe the connection between her likes and dislikes. So that's the role that likes and dislikes can play. Something that has to be explained, and that's where she failed. There is no explanation. She's not deriving them into principles. When she had a conclusion that her principles contradicted, she didn't abandon the principles and adjust them so that they can conclude the right thing. She didn't change her conclusions. And it's like in philosophy, it's one or the other. And there's plenty of dogmatists, fairly closed-minded people. There's people that have made up crazy explanations. But she, I think, just made a list and relied on people that had a similar set of tastes. And had she explained those tastes better, in a philosophical sense, then I would consider her a philosopher. She did explain those things in a narrative sense, in books which are so romantic and so obviously not written by somebody of a super objective. Having a romantic idea about industrialism can be sold as hardcore objectivism, but really it's a kind of romance. And yes, she conveyed an idea of the world there, and even you can deduce from the characters a little bit of what she thinks. And she is basically pro-primal self, passionate ideas like promiscuity isn't good, but cheating because you're in a loveless marriage and you find somebody better, that's okay. Not that that's self-serving, but anyway. So yeah, a list of likes and dislikes. I just don't call that a philosophy. I think it for someone that starts with an assumption that, okay, you're a philosopher, whatever, you knock yourself off the list of people that aren't philosophers for the sole reason that everybody is.